Hello and welcome to BlockOne Productions. My name is Soma and I am with Glitch the Husky. A few weeks ago I uploaded this video where I showcased my recreation of the O Control, an amazing sequencer by Make Noise. I thought people weren't that interested in it, but more and more people have been asking me about a full tutorial and the download link. So here it is. In the first video I just reviewed the interactive part and showed that it is capable of doing really interesting stuff. As a summary, it is a sequencer with three main parameters: pitch, strength, and time, that you can change using this ADDR-SEQ by Vogue Audio, and use these outputs here to modulate lots of things. Another really interesting part about the O Control is the variable gate, that is basically a mix between a square gate and an attack release gate, that you can modulate using these controls. And the last part that I find really interesting are these pressure sensitive buttons, that in this version are replaced by the VCAs that serves basically the same functionality. In my last video I did not show the cables because it is a real mess, but here they are. This tutorial will be a little bit different because I will not be building it from scratch. Instead I will go through the section and explain my thought process and the techniques I used. Last week a YouTube user called Hesham El-Faharani, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, asked me about how to deconstruct the synths, or in this case a sequencer. First, I really need to like the product in question. I love Make Noise modules and I hope that I can try the physical version sometime. I watched some YouTube videos and I fell in love with the aesthetic and functionality. After I choose a product to recreate, I basically just look at it, the knobs, the ins and outs, the faders, the labels, to see if I understand it. This part is kinda hard to explain because it's more of an internal process, but it is really important for me to see if it makes sense, or if it is similar to other things I have worked on, or if I can use certain technique to achieve the result. After that, and this is the most important step, I usually look for block diagrams that are basically a really well explained map of the components and their connections. For example, this block diagram of the Prophet 5 shows an LFO that goes to the mono mode, then to the VCO, mixer, VCF and VCAF. These last two with independent envelopes. That's the general structure. You just need to replace LFO with your favorite module, connect the cables, adjust some variables, and that's basically it. I suggest reading the manuals and do a little bit of research in case a component has some particularity, like the range of the oscillators or maybe the kind of filter that a synth uses. Most filters have a very characteristic sound. The last thing I usually do is take some patches and recreate them as close as possible, and with that I usually do minor adjustments to some Atenuverters. But now let's continue with this tutorial. Let's start with the on-off section. Really simple stuff. It is a button by Little Utils and the toggle function goes through a teleport module with the code UYI12 to the logic section. You can use the gate output if you would like this patch to be active only when you press the button. Here's the logic section. Also, it is labeled. It is a big mess. I only made the interactive section pretty. But anyways, here's the on-off section that is basically just switches that allow not just the clock but also some fixed voltages to go through. Back to the interactive section, we have this clock module that acts as our main clock. It has 3 subdivisions, 2, 4 and 8 times the main clock. A little trick here, in the logic section I use more clock modules, one at one time, and the other has -2, -4 and -8 times our main clock. I did it this way to avoid sync issues and because clock has some amazing functions, like setting a clock as the main one and the others as the slaves. You can also select the behavior on the start and stop, whether the output is high when the clock is not running, and many useful things. Certainly one of my favorite clock modules. They go to Sequential Switch, so you can select which one you want. 7 clocks, so 7 possible outputs. Back to our interactive section, this ADDR-SEQ label time let us select the subdivision. Remember that I have 2 O-control versions. This one with a clock where you can select exact subdivisions and the one with an LFO where you can select time more freely, but it won't necessarily be quantized or tempo. Tell me in the comment which one is your favorite. My favorite section of this patch are these pressure VCAs that show almost the exact same behavior as the pressure buttons in the O-control. The difference is that when you let go of the VCAs, it doesn't reset. If you have any idea how to chip that, let me know. Anyways, the way these VCAs work is pretty simple. I have a fixed voltage source with 10 volts that runs through them, a switch so you can toggle them on or off, and in the logic section it uses a polyphonic comparator that sends a trigger when the input is bigger than 0.001. So basically, with the slightest movement of the VCA, this button sends a reset pulse as well as a CV to the ADDR-SEQ. That tells it which step was selected and it resets on that step only. The last thing I want to show you is this direction selector. The O-control has forwards, backwards and random. I added a random forward-backwards direction and it basically chooses each step if it goes forward or backwards. Forward is pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. Backwards is achieved with a negative clock. I used Imp by Vogue Audio to send a -10 volt gate, and ADDR-SEQ has this option to go in reverse with a negative clock. Random is achieved with Sequential Switch integrated random function. And the random forward backwards is achieved using another sequential switch with positive and negative clocks as its inputs. That's about it. It is a simple patch, all things considered, but it has lots of connections. The LFO version is pretty much the same, but instead of multiple clocks, it uses LFO by Vogue Audio. It sends square pulses, and this Atenuverter helps turning the CV into an usable V-out range for LFO clock. Both of these versions are already uploaded to patch storage. Let me know which one is your favorite. Are there any synths, sequencer or effects that you would like to see me build in VCV Rack? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe and leave a comment. follow me on social networks and join my Discord.